Well, the terrible news I have to bring you this morning is that a day of national celebration in France has turned into an utter tragedy after a lorry ploughed into a Bastille Day crowd in Nice last night.
And there's some terrible eyewitness accounts. 80 people have been so far killed in the attack, including several children. We've been speaking to some of those people who were caught up in the chaos last night.
Everybody was leaving the beach. Then we hear some shots, and everybody was running. And we was scared. We was running, like really scary because we hear the shots, and it was really scary.
Running through crowds in Nice with kids and terrified. Never taking the kids to a public event again. Finally back to the hotel. Hate this.
Never in my life have I been so scared.
I wanted to call my dad because I really thought it would have been the last conversation ever, but I just couldn't. I genuinely thought I was going to die.
There were a lot of panic. Of course, my first thought after Paris attack was that is something similar happening in here, and what is really going on, and scary, confusing.
Oh, it's awful to hear, isn't it? Well, look, joining us now is terror expert Olivier Guita. Another horrific attack in France, Olivier. First of all, it sounds a strange question, but why France? There's been such a litany of big and small terror attacks. Why France particularly?
A couple of reasons. Jihadist groups such as Al-Qaeda and Islamic State have made a point of having France as one of their top targets because of the colonial past of France, because of the fact that they view France as an Islamophobic country in their eyes because of the laws that France passed for the hijab and the burqa, for instance. And thirdly, because
wearing those in public
schools,
in
yeah,
schools,
that's right,
yes.
yeah.
And thirdly, because France has been under Hollande, believe it or not, very active military against jihadists, much more so than the UK.
They've been strong in Syria and so on, have they?
They've been strong in Syria, they've been strong in Mali. If it weren't for the French, Mali would be today in the hands of Al-Qaeda. So they are at the forefront, if you will, on the war against jihadists. So those are the three reasons.
Yeah, and one of the issues, I suppose, is that, you know, Sean Fletcher, our sports reporter, was out in France for the Euros and was telling us, you know, the security was immense. I mean, you couldn't get a hairpin through the fan zone in Nice. Were they waiting for the Euros to end, do you think? I mean, is this why it's happened today? Yeah,
most possibly. That's one of the reasons that they were waiting, because security services were very relieved that nothing happened during the Euro. So they may have lowered their guards a little bit, especially in Nice rather than in Paris. So that could be one of the reasons, but also they wanted to target France on National Day, on Bastille Day, because they're looking at this symbolical that they can shake up the state.
I mean, it's such a day of unity, isn't it? That's what it's about, unity and peace. And the visual scenes that we're looking at now of a lorry ploughing through a crowd celebrating unity and peace, I guess it's for them. We don't know much about, we don't know anything really about the individual involved for these horrible events. But the fact that it's one person, does this say something to you about the tactics of these terror groups now?
Actually, we know a little more about him. He's a French-Tunisian, he's 31-year-old, he's from Nice, he's well known to the police, but
in what way well known? Where are you getting
criminality?
For criminality, yeah.
Rather than terrorism. So it wasn't, you know, known for terrorism actions. And that's where you'll see later the nexus between criminality and terrorism.
And this is the issue, isn't it? I mean, we're sitting in England, or in the UK at least, we look across and we think there's been a lot of criticism of security services, the handling of intelligence, dealing with people who might have been on watch lists. I mean, is this another moment for France to think, what are the security services doing? Or is it unfair in a way, in that what can you do about a lone person and, you know, the thoughts they're having?
It's majorly unfair because they don't have the resources. Our political leaders should not blame the security services with what we're giving them in terms of resources, because you have to remember, one stat sums up basically the work of our services. To follow just one individual, you need 30 people. on a regular basis.
To catch one, you need 30 people up
to
round the
monitor
clock.
them on a 24/7, and so it's very difficult.
It shows the huge task ahead all of us, I think, in the future. Thanks so much for joining us, Olivier Guita. Let's get some eyewitness account. And Celia Delacourt is a young woman who was caught up in the terror attack, and she joins us now. Good morning to you. I think you can hear us now. Just explain where you were last night and what you heard.
Last night I was on the beach with my friends, and as soon as the fireworks ends, we went on the Promenade des Anglais, and we heard gunshots, and all the people were running.
And it must have been absolutely terrifying. I think we've got some images that your friend who was with you, Marie, shot of you trying desperately to get away. What was the reaction of people around you as this was all happening?
Everybody was scared. We didn't know what was happening, so we ran as fast as we could without knowing what was happening.
Celia, can I ask you, I mean, this is in just the space of a year and a half or so, the third or fourth big attack that has happened, and the Bataclan terrorist attack was again on young people. You are a young person. I mean, what does it do to your feelings of safety in your homeland, in your home country?
It's scary because we didn't thought it would happen here. We like to go out and have fun, and we didn't thought it would happen here while we're having fun for our day in France.
Yeah, and was security really tight during the Euros in Nice, and had you noticed a difference in security there in the last few days?
I didn't understand.
Talking about the security around the football competition that was happening in Nice, the Euros, did you notice a difference in security in the last few days?
No. No, there are always a lot of security. When we were on the Promenade des Anglais, we saw a lot of police, so there were a lot of security.
There has been a lot of discussion, hasn't there? There certainly has here in the UK about safety and security surrounding the football. Was any of those fears in your mind when you went out last night? Were you thinking, oh goodness, this could be an event? Is it present in your mind, or did the whole thing come out of the blue?
No, I didn't thought about it at all. During the Euro, everything was in security, so we didn't think it would happen for last night.
Of course you didn't. Well, look, we're talking to you throughout the morning. I'm sure you're feeling very shaken up. Thanks very much for telling us a little of what you went through last night. Thanks very much indeed.
It's the pictures of those children cowering, isn't it? And their parents telling them to be quiet, you know, and all of that.
Running with prams. Horrible. Well, look, let's get an update on the latest developments on the attack. Here's Charlotte, who's been monitoring things too.
Yes, just to take you through the information that we know so far on this. Now, 80 people have been killed, and we do know that that includes many children after a lorry ploughed into the Bastille Day crowd in the French resort of Nice. And we know that the lorry continued for some time, over a mile, leaving people fleeing for their lives. More than 100 have also been injured, and at least 18 are in a critical condition in hospital after this. The driver of the truck was shot dead. The authorities are then reported to have found guns and grenades in the vehicle, which they say is suggesting that it was a premeditated attack. Now, French prosecutors have opened a terror investigation. President Hollande has been holding crisis talks in Paris. A state of emergency in France has been extended for a further 3 months. And also we know that thousands of military and extra police officers have been drafted in to help with the investigation and the security there. So that's the latest as we know it at the moment.